Good morning, I am Sister Joanna. I'm a Comboniane missionary sister working in South Sudan as a medical doctor, and I'm going to do a presentation under the theme in the context of Carisma and health. This is the summary of our reflection. We are going to see the neediness of our reflection, the precedents that we have to take into account, the objectives of the reflection. I'm going also to pass through my personal experience and to express a bit what are the signs of the times that I think we have to take into account to proceed in our pastoral in health. The neediness of reflection is expressed in our rule of life, number 13.2, where we are invited periodically to review our commitments and activities in the light of the purpose of the Institute. And I think this assembly goes rightly to this point. The precedence that we are taking into account is that we are assuming that the cure and attention to the sick goes back to Jesus Christ. So it is not the objective of this reflection to consider the biblical resources and justifications for a pastoral in health. I would also like for us to consider that I'm going to use the words ministeriality or ministry or pastoral as synonymous, even though we know that they are not, but it's not the scope of this presentation to differentiate the exact meaning of these words, so you forgive me this little incoherency. And also I would like us to consider that I am not at all an expert in Carism, Comboniane Carism, writings of Comboniane. I am a young Comboniane missionary sister working in the health field with a young experience of the Carism. So I'm daring to enter in this field, maybe to start a reflection that we can all continue after. So the objectives of this reflection is to consider the basis in which a pastoral in health was and is still charismatically valuable for us as Comboniane sisters today. So what is our specific and in which way our vision of our pastoral of health is being attentive to the signs of the times? Which kind of presence can we still have in the field of health in our times? So, if we consider our Comboniane Charism and its relation to the health ministry, we see that in all our charismatic roots there is a base that sustains a pastoral in health. And I consider our charismatic roots the ones expressed in our rule of life in the first numbers. In all of them we find the base for building up our spirituality. And then we see that the following writings and correlations with the rule of life reveal the attention that our founder always gave to the health field, not only as a mediation of fulfilling his desire of regeneration of Africa, but also as an important point to keep in mind and to care for as a value in relation to himself and his missionaries. So considering the first number of our rule of life, Origin of the Charism, Comboniane had a vision that a consecrated woman has a particular mission to perform. And in the field of health, we see it, that the European women, because of their physical strength, the character of their moral life, so they had a health that would be capable to endure the climate, the environment of Africa, and because of that, their services will be very much appreciated. But the woman will be good not only because she was physically strong, but also because she could be able also to learn medicine and surgery. So Comboniane doesn't take us to Africa only for direct spiritual direction. It does not only instruct us to learn languages, but also to learn medicine and surgery. Imagine at that time in the 19th century, he was really a visionary. In all these appropriate subjects, says Comboniane, we'll make of this Sister Magdalene a woman according to the gospel and according to the needs of our work for the regeneration of Africa. Also in the second point, total dedication, deep faith and confidence in God, we see how Comboniane surrenders everything for the regeneration of Africa. His own health, when he has to return because he is very sick after his first journey to Africa, but also when he has to entrust himself to the care of these local surgeons, these cat butchers, the only ones that were able to do something in Sudan in that time, when he had a big problem in the arm, and he entrusts himself to this cat butcher, and he had great success. Also considering number 3, the heart of Christ. Comboni contemplates the heart of Christ and assimilates his profound sentiments, and he sees that in the heart of Christ the sick have an important place, have equal access to my heart, and then he knows perfectly, is perfectly aware that the medicine that is needed in Sudan is hidden in the Sacred Heart of Christ. Considering the number 4, love of the cross, Comboni experiences in himself the sacrifice and the total annihilation of the cross, not only regarding his own health when he has to make his sacrifices because there is no doctors or medicine in Africa, but also when he has to serve others as a doctor. No? He considers himself as shepherd, teacher, and doctor. And then when he in many writings, he says that when he reveals, he tells his experience about being a doctor and spending nights after nights taking care of sick people, perfectly aware that the doctor, the main doctor, is the crucified Jesus. Also number 5, Mary. To her, Comboni entrusts and consecrated himself, his missionaries, and the work of regeneration. So he entrusts also his own health, the health of his missionaries, and the health of the people. And we see in this powerful act of consecration of Central Africa to Our Lady of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. We consecrate all the souls of the Central African regions. We consecrate ourselves, our families, be our health and strength in sickness. Also consider number 6, the most needy and forsaken, whom he saw in that particular moment, and among them are the sick. In one of his first experiences in Africa, he realized that he has to start practicing medicine because the sick, they were so many and they were so abandoned. And he said at one point, I have all the sick of the neighborhood as patients. And he encourages his missionaries also to be involved in the care of the sick, not only in spiritual direction, in learning languages, but also in the practice of charity to the sick. And he sees how the children, especially the sick and the weak, are abandoned in the streets, and he doesn't hesitate to take them. And he even sets up infirmaries and pharmacies, and he's perfectly aware that charity to the sick is a powerful means with which to win souls for Jesus Christ. And the poverty is so much, the sick are so abundant because in the whole of Central Africa there is not even a doctor who knows the elementary principles of medicine and surgery. So this is also a great point for the missionaries, because the lack of doctors in medicine is a major cause of death, not only for the people, but also for his missionaries, for the sisters. Perfectly aware that sometimes the only medicine that he has are ashes. Also in the number 7, Save Africa with Africa, the conviction that the salvation of Africa come about by means of the African themselves. And we see in the rough outline of the program of the Institute is also part the formation in medicine and pharmacology, including the sisters, the young African girls who want to be missionaries. Apart from having to learn the principles of the Christian faith, they have to also have some notions of medicine and pharmacology. So, in his way of living and contacting with the sick, not only the ones among the African population, but also among the members of his institute, he was able, Comboni, to incarnate all the charismatic values, give a new meaning to a pastoral in health, distinctive of other congregations at the time. A pastoral in health that has the scope of evangelization, has a scope to announce the gospel, but in a very practical and creative way. And we see it, including there is this chapter of disciplinary norms of the Institute when he takes into account the care of the health and physical strength of the students of the Institute. We must carefully preserve the precious health of our Institute. So, synthesizing, Comboni and health regarding his missionary. So being healthy was an important attribute for the missionary. The missionary has to be able to care of himself, herself, and to allow himself and herself to be taken care of. And Comboni was always very, very attentive to this. The missionary, or at least some of us, should be trained to assist the sick people, not only the population, but also the missionaries, with a minimal knowledge of medicine, surgery, and pharmacology. And I would like to point out the creativity of Comboni in learning a minimal knowledge of medicine and pharmacology. He sees that he's needed and he jumps in order to learn for the good of the people. And so we see that the vocation of doctor or nurse is not at all incompatible with the missionary vocation. On the contrary, it is an advantage. We also see that in every moment and situation, the value of health is not an absolute in itself, but should be entrusted to God, who is the doctor by excellency. And also the missionary should be very, very aware that in some areas of the mission could find himself or herself without proper medical assistance. And this should be taken as part of our spirit of sacrifice, love of the cross, and total confidence in God. And of course, I would like also to say that Comboni is perfectly aware of the economical burden of a healthcare in Africa, not only for his own missionaries, but also in settling infirmaries and pharmacies in Central Africa. Regarding his apostolic mission, we see that the sick were part of the group of the poorest and most needy in Africa, and that the cure of the sick was an important mediation for evangelization, charity that conduces to love. It was impossible to announce the gospel without being attentive to cure, to take care also of the physical illnesses of the people. And also we see that the consecrated woman had all the characteristics to exercise the ministry of health and should be encouraged to do so. In every moment and situation, as we said regarding his missionaries, the value of health was not an absolute in itself, and that the teaching of medicine, surgery, and pharmacology should be done also to the Africans in order to make them able to care of their own people. And also Comboni, in his apostolic mission, as I said, is perfectly aware of the economical burden of an apostolic mission in the health field. Even though he is aware, he doesn't give up. Considering the health ministry and charism of the Institute, considering the example and charisma of Comboni, we can see that also in the pastoral of health there is a fulfillment of the aim of the Institute. And we see it in number 12, written in our rule of life. The specific aim of our Institute is the evangelization of those people to whom the gospel has not yet been proclaimed, and even in health. So we see it, that Comboni writes that the main occupation of the missionaries in the Institute is to help the superior in his task as director in whatever activities that are requested from them in sciences, principal craft, catechism, and the care of the sick, according to the norms of the Institute. And he sees, as we saw it before, the practice of charity, especially by offering assistance to the sick, will be of great use in making ourselves popular and has a door open to the entrance of the gospel. And he sees that it's so important that even though there are people that are not doctors by formation, if they have the capacity, the vocation to do it, they should be encouraged to do so. So important is this ministry for the evangelization. In another writing, there are other ways to win their love, they say. In one of them, he says, the zealous practice of medicine, free of charge, is one of them. And also perfectly aware of the economical burden of having doctors visit in Africa, in this case in Cairo. And this is the people that have among these missionaries that have a special vocation and especially tendency to learn medicine that could be encouraged to do so. So we see how important it is, the learning, the knowledge, the practice of medicine and surgery in order to enter the gospel in these poor regions of Central Africa. Regarding my ministry and my personal experience, I will divide it in strengths and vulnerabilities. According to what I see and what I experience, I think we are still charismatically very valuable, and we are still using our health ministry as an important way of evangelization. We have sisters technically very well prepared and working in the field passionately, and we have the presence of health structures in very poor countries, and health structures associated with formative centers for the local people. The example is in Wow, we have the hospital, St. Daniel Comboniane Catholic Hospital, was built in order to provide a center, a place where nurses and midwives from CHTI, this big formative center belonging to Solidarity in Wow, could practice their skills. And also I think another strength is our powerful collaboration with other institutions within the Catholic Church, outside the Catholic Church, and with the local government. And for me, the fact that we are not autosufficient is in itself a strength. But also I see some vulnerabilities that we have to think, to work on. We have less sisters working in the field. We see, because of that, there is an excessive work and demand of multiple tasks. We have doctors, nurses involved also in administration, and this excessive workload makes it difficult sometimes to combine the spiritual assistance with the technical profession. I also see that maybe there is a less support from the communities to the health ministry. Maybe there is a conviction of mutual parts that there is no space and time for a dialogue in the communities. The sisters that are overloaded with work, they have less time for the communities, and the communities that are less involved and less capable also to support the sisters in health ministry. We also see that there is more specialization of the sisters in the health sector with little co-involvement of other sisters. You see, Comboni was inviting all of us, not only doctors or nurses, to be to care for the sick, to do this practice of charity for the sick. And I realized that the requirement of work permissions in the countries makes it difficult for sisters that are not nurses and doctors to be involved in health, in the pastoral health. But I think we are losing a bit of this communitarian involvement in this ministry. We are becoming much more separated, specialized, if we want, and is this a vulnerability or a strength? Also, the heavy economical burden with needs of sisters in the health sector being co-involved in project and managing is part of our workload, and it takes maybe some of our time and energies for the evangelization through our technical profession. And then we have this big challenge of sustainability, how to keep our human and material resources. So, considering my personal experience, I'm daring to give an attention to the signs of the times. What are the signs of the times that we should take into account? And in his own time, Comboni accurately read the signs of the times and was able, in a very creative way, to answer to the challenges, even though his technical formation was minimal in the area. And we see how he speaks about cough, for example, to the Countess Ludmila, even though he was not a doctor. Or when he read about the tincture that is effective against cholera. So the signs of the times that I'm seeing, it is part of my personal reflection that we can and we could continue go on. I think there is a neediness of collaboration that builds sustainability. We have to strengthen our collaboration intra-congregational in our communities, inter-congregational with other congregations, within other church institutions and outside the church, including the government, in order to keep the human and economical resources. I believe also that we have to increment on formation activities, focus on our energy in the formation of health personnel instead of doing everything ourselves. And maybe we could review our presence in order to continue to choose the poorest and most abandoned in our missions. Where are in the health pastoral, in the health ministry, where are the places, where are the poorest, the ones that most need our presence. And then I think we have really to be convinced that our spiritual hive, our crucified Jesus, is the principle, is the main medicine for the sick and for the community. The charity towards the sick calls the attention to the gospel, make us able to enter and be accepted by a community. So it is a powerful means for evangelization. So are we still using it or not? And I think this can happen if we are able to live harmoniously our consecrated life with our profession, which is a struggle, a challenge, an everyday challenge. Now, also I believe that we have to recreate in our communities a spirit of understanding, dialogue and collaboration towards the health ministry, from both parts. Also a health ministry that needs to find harmony between the community life and its apostolic mission. And to grow in us, all of us, the conviction that all members of the community are part of this ministry in this spiritual fellowship. So I think that these are the three important things that we have to take into account as the conclusion of these presentations, that yes, we are still charismatically valuable, but we have to be attentive to the signs of the times in order to know how to proceed, especially in the 3 points that I think they are the most important. To consider the health ministry as a way, a powerful means of evangelization, and that we should cultivate a spirit of collaboration among us and with other institutions in and outside the church, and to increment the formation. We know that we can die, we can be sick, we can have to return to our homeland, and even do another kind of ministry, but we know that our work, the work of God in the field of health will not die. It will continue with others. Thank you very much.